The story has been reformatted for readability, with numbers removed. Part 1, The Outcast. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched far beyond what human eyes could see. Captain Jake Morrison stood alone in the center, his blue uniform wrinkled from days of waiting. Around him, hundreds of alien beings sat in floating chairs that glowed with soft light. Their eyes, tentacles, and crystal formations all pointed at him like weapons. Jake had been here for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of questions, accusations, and alien voices speaking in languages that hurt his ears. The translator device in his collar turned their words into English, but it could not hide their anger and fear. The tallest alien, Velter of the Ethereal Dominion, floated down from the highest platform. Its body was made of shifting purple mist with glowing white eyes that never blinked. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "Human Morrison," Velter said, "you have heard all charges against your species. Do you have final words before we decide your fate?" Jake looked around the hall. He saw the crystal beings called architects, their bodies like living diamonds that changed color with their thoughts. The collective sat in perfect rows, their ant-like faces showing no emotion as their hive mind judged him. In the shadows, the ancient void walkers watched with eyes like dying stars. "I have words," Jake said. His voice echoed in the huge space, "but I doubt you want to hear them." A sound like breaking glass came from the architects section. It was their version of laughter. "Speak," Velter commanded. Jake took a deep breath. 6 months ago, human colonists on New Texas were attacked by Zaffron raiders. Families were killed. Children were taken as slaves. The colonists asked for help from this council. You told them to file papers and wait for a committee to study the situation. The Zapperian delegation shifted uncomfortably. Their bird-like faces turned away from Jake's stare. So the colonists defended themselves, Jake continued. They fought back. They saved their children and drove off the raiders. And for this crime of survival, you put all humanity on trial. They violated the sacred peace accords, spoke Krixt, the hive queen of the collective. Her voice buzzed like a million insects. Violence is forbidden in civilized space. Violence was already there, Jake shot back. We just refuse to die quietly. The hall erupted, and angry sounds, screeches, buzzes, and crystal chimes filled the air. Velter raised a misty arm, and silence returned. This is exactly why humans cannot remain in our galaxy, Velter announced. You are chaotic, unpredictable. You solve problems with force instead of proper procedures. We solve problems, Jake said simply. That's what scares you. In the observation section high above the main floor, Dr. Lisa Kane watched through bulletproof glass. She was the only other human allowed in the building as a scientific observer. Her fingers moved quickly over a data pad, recording everything for the emergency transmission she would send to Earth in the colonies. Lisa had spent 20 years studying alien cultures. She understood their languages, their customs, and their fears. What she saw in this trial was not justice. It was terror. The council species were afraid of what humans might become. On the main floor, Velter began reading from a floating scroll that appeared in the air. By unanimous vote of all member species, we find humanity guilty of excessive aggression, violation of peace protocols, and behavior incompatible with galactic civilization. Jake felt his heart sink, but his face remained steady. The sentence is total banishment from all civilized space. Every human colony, outpost, research station, and vessel must evacuate the inner rim within 30 standard days. Any human found in council space after this period will be destroyed on sight. The words hit Jake like physical blows. 30 days to abandon everything humanity had built among the stars. 30 days to pack up farms, factories, schools, and hospitals. 30 days to become wanderers in empty space. Furthermore, Velter continued, all trade agreements with human worlds are cancelled. All research partnerships are ended. All diplomatic relations are severed. Humanity is cast out, never to return. Jake's hands became fists at his sides. You think you're protecting the galaxy from us, he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the hall. You have no idea what you've just unleashed. The alien delegates looked confused by his words. They expected begging or anger. Instead, Jake Morrison smiled. Part 2, The Exodus. High above, Dr. Kane was already typing her emergency message to Admiral Roy Bennett, commander of the human fleet. The message was simple: execute Plan Exodus. Gather all humans. Prepare for the long journey to the galactic edge, But she added one more line that made her fingers shake as she typed it, they fear us for a reason. Perhaps it's time they learned why, As the alien delegates began to file out of the hall, already congratulating themselves on solving the human problem, none of them noticed Jake's final action. He activated a small device hidden in his uniform collar. It was not a weapon or a recording device. It was a scanner, and for 3 weeks, it had been mapping every system, every world, and every weakness in Council space. The information flowed instantly to human intelligence networks hidden throughout the galaxy. By the time Jake was escorted from the building, human captains were already plotting courses and taking notes about which Council worlds had poor defenses, which species were unhappy with their leaders, and which star systems had resources the Council had ignored. Jake walked to his small ship at the spaceport. As he prepared for departure, he sent one message to Admiral Bennett. They want us gone. Let's give them what they want, but let's make sure they remember why they wanted it, The ship lifted off, carrying the last human away from the Council's seat of power. The aliens watched it go with relief, certain they had protected their perfect, orderly galaxy from chaos. They had no way of knowing they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. In trying to exile humanity, they had freed them from all the rules, laws, and limitations that had held them back. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could accomplish when they had nothing left to lose. 6 months had passed since the trial. Admiral Roy Bennett stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the last human transport ship join their massive fleet. Thousands of vessels stretched out in all directions, from huge colony ships carrying families to small cargo haulers packed with everything humans could take from their abandoned worlds. The fleet was bigger than anyone had imagined it would be when the evacuation began. Humans came from every corner of Council space, miners from asteroid belts, researchers from science stations, traders who had spent years learning alien languages and customs. All of them now refugees heading toward the unknown. Admiral, said Commander Alex Turner from the navigation station. We're approaching the edge of mapped space. The Council's star charts show nothing but empty systems and dangerous space storms ahead. Bennett nodded. The Council had driven them to the very edge of the galaxy, to a region so dangerous that no civilized species would go there. Perfect for humans, he thought with a grim smile. Take us forward, Commander. Let's see what's so dangerous about the outer rim. The fleet moved slowly through space that grew stranger with each passing hour. Stars appeared in impossible colors. Space itself seemed to bend and twist, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. The ship's sensors detected energy readings unlike anything in human databases. Admiral, Turner called out. I'm picking up something massive ahead. It looks like artificial structures. On the main screen, dark shapes appeared against the star field. As they got closer, the shapes became clearer. They were ruins, massive cities built on asteroids and dead planets connected by bridges that spanned empty space. The architecture was unlike anything humans had ever seen, with curves and angles that seemed to follow no earthly logic. My God, whispered Dr. Lisa Kane, who had joined the fleet as Chief Science Officer. These aren't natural formations. Someone built this. Bennett ordered the fleet to stop at a safe distance while scout ships moved ahead to investigate. Commander Turner led the first exploration team to what appeared to be the largest structure, a space station the size of a small moon. The station's exterior was covered in symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. As Turner's ship approached, an opening appeared in the hull as if the station was inviting them inside. Against all safety protocols, Turner ordered his pilot to enter. Inside, the station was filled with soft light that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The corridors were wide enough for giants with ceilings that disappeared into shadows above. Everything was built to last forever, but covered in dust that had gathered for thousands of years. Turner to Defiant, he spoke into his communicator. The station appears abandoned, but there are signs of recent power usage. We're detecting life signs deeper inside. Following the readings, Turner's team made their way through endless corridors until they reached a vast chamber at the station's heart. In the center, a figure waited for them. It was tall and thin with skin like polished metal and eyes that held the wisdom of ages. Despite its alien appearance, something about it seemed familiar, almost human. "Welcome, children of Earth," the being said in perfect English. "I am Keith Moran, last of the precursors. We have been waiting for you." Turner felt his breath catch. The precursors were legends spoken of in whispers by the oldest council species. They were said to be the galaxy's first intelligent race, builders of wonders that lasted forever. Most aliens believed they were myths. "You're real," Turner said. "As real as your courage in coming here," Keith Moran replied. "Tell me, why do the young races of the Council fear you so much that they would drive you to these forsaken regions?" Turner explained the trial, the accusations, and the forced exodus. As he spoke, Keith Moran's expression grew darker. "The same pattern repeats," the ancient being said sadly. "We too were once cast out by species who feared our potential. The Council's ancestors destroyed our civilization 10,000 years ago, calling us too dangerous for their ordered galaxy." "What happened to your people?" Turner asked. "We retreated here to the outer rim, where space itself is our ally. These storms and anomalies that keep others away are our creation, designed to protect what remains of our knowledge. Most of my people chose to sleep in the deep vaults, waiting for the galaxy to change. I alone remained awake, watching, hoping." Keith Moran led Turner through the station, showing him rooms filled with technology beyond human understanding. Machines that could shape matter with thought alone. Computers that calculated the movements of entire galaxies. Weapons that could move stars from their orbits. "Why are you showing us this?" Turner asked. "Because you are what we once were," Keith explained. "Builders, explorers, beings who refuse to accept limitations. The Council species have grown comfortable in their stagnation. They preserve order by preventing change. But you humans are different. You adapt. You grow. You become more than you were." They reached a control room overlooking vast manufacturing facilities that stretched for miles underground. Keith Moran touched a panel and the ancient machines began to hum with power. "These are the Forge worlds," he said. "Automated factories that can build anything we can imagine. Ships, weapons, cities, entire planets if needed. With our technology and your spirit, you could build an empire that would make the Council's petty kingdoms look like children's toys." Turner stared at the awakening machines. "Why help us? What do you want in return?" "Freedom," Keith Moran said simply. "For 10,000 years, we have hidden in the shadows while lesser species claimed dominion over our galaxy. Help us reclaim our place among the stars, and we will give you the tools to build something better than what the Council destroyed." Back on the Defiant, Admiral Bennett listened to Turner's report with growing amazement. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just survived their exile. They had discovered the keys to galactic power. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Turner asked over the communicator. Bennett looked out at the fleet of human refugees, then at the ancient precursor station glowing in the distance. The Council had meant to destroy humanity by casting them out. Instead, they had delivered them to their greatest allies. Begin colonization procedures, Bennett ordered. Contact Captain Morrison. Tell him we found our new home. And Commander? Yes, Admiral. Tell him we're not refugees anymore. As of today, we're the founding fathers of something the galaxy has never seen. The Council wanted us gone. They're going to get their wish. We're never going back to being their subjects again. As the human fleet began spreading out to explore the precursor worlds, none of them noticed the smile on Keith Moran's ancient face. The galaxy's newest partnership had begun. Part 3, The New Empire. 2 years had passed since the discovery of the precursor worlds. The refugee camps were gone now, replaced by gleaming cities that grew larger each day. Captain Jake Morrison, now calling himself the first coordinator, stood on the balcony of his office on Haven, the world that had become humanity's new capital. Below him, the city of New Geneva stretched to the horizon. Human engineers worked alongside precursor machines, building towers that reached toward the clouds. Ships launched every hour, carrying settlers to new worlds or returning with resources from distant systems. What had once been empty space was now buzzing with human activity. The morning reports, Coordinator, said his aide, bringing him a data pad filled with updates from across human space. Morrison smiled as he read. 200 systems now flew human flags. The population had grown from refugee camps to thriving colonies in just 24 months. But the most impressive changes were not in numbers, but in what humans had become. General Kate Sullivan walked into the office, her uniform different from anything the old human military had worn. The fabric was woven with precursor technology, allowing it to harden into armor at a moment's notice. Her weapon was not a simple gun, but a device that could manipulate gravity itself. The new defense core is ready for testing, she reported. We now have 50,000 enhanced soldiers and a fleet of ships that would make the Council wet themselves. Morrison nodded. The enhancement process had been voluntary, but almost every human had chosen it. Dr. Ryan Cooper had found ways to improve human abilities without changing what made them human. Enhanced humans were stronger, faster, and could survive in any environment. But they still laughed at jokes, cried at sad movies, and argued about sports. What about our new allies? Morrison asked. The Wanderer clans have sent another fleet, Sullivan replied. They're impressed by our shipbuilding capabilities. The Dream Weavers want to establish art colonies on 3 of our worlds, and the Iron Bloods are asking if we need help with security. Morrison walked to his window, looking out at the stars. When the Council had banished humanity, they had assumed humans would struggle alone in the darkness. Instead, humans had found species that the Council had ignored or pushed aside. The Wanderers were nomads who traveled between galaxies. The Dream Weavers created art that could change reality itself. The Iron Bloods were warriors who valued honor above politics. All of them had joined the Outer Rim Alliance, the government Morrison had created to replace the rigid Council system. Unlike the Council's rules and bureaucracy, the alliance was simple. Members kept their independence but worked together for mutual benefit. No species dominated others. No ancient laws prevented progress. Coordinator, came a voice from the door. Ambassador Ellen Price entered, her face serious. We have a situation developing near the border. Morrison turned. Ellen had spent the last year building relationships with species throughout the galaxy. Her network of contacts reached even into Council space. What kind of situation? He asked. 3 more Council member species have asked to join the Alliance, Ellen said. The Coral Builders, the Song Makers, and the Star Dancers. They're tired of Council taxes and restrictions. They want the freedom our members enjoy. Sullivan frowned. That could be seen as an act of war by the Council. They won't let their members leave peacefully. Which brings us to the bigger problem, Ellen continued. My sources in Council space report massive military buildup. They're gathering the largest fleet in galactic history. Every member species is being forced to contribute ships and soldiers. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine, but not from fear. The Council was finally taking the human threat seriously, but they had waited too long to act. Dr. Lisa Kane entered the room carrying a device that looked like a crystal mixed with human electronics. As Chief Science Advisor, she had spent 2 years learning precursor technology and adapting it for human use. Perfect timing, Morrison said. Lisa, how ready are we for a full-scale conflict? Kane smiled, but there was no humor in it. The Forge Worlds have produced more ships in 2 years than the Council has built in 2 centuries. Our quantum fighters can appear anywhere in a system instantly. Our larger ships carry weapons that can crack planets. And thanks to precursor biotechnology, every human pilot reacts faster than any alien nervous system can process. She activated the device and a holographic map of the galaxy appeared in the air. Red dots marked Council positions while blue dots showed human and Alliance territories. But the real advantage is not our weapons, Kane continued. It's our intelligence network. We have operatives throughout Council space, many of them species the Council has mistreated for generations. They're eager to help us. Morrison studied the map. The Council controlled the inner galaxy with over 1,000 worlds. The Alliance held the outer rim with just 200 systems. On paper, it looked like an impossible fight. What do our people in Council space report? He asked. Ellen activated her own display. Rebellion is brewing on dozens of worlds. High taxes to fund the war effort, forced military service, suppression of local cultures. The Council is becoming more oppressive every day, and their subjects are noticing. The Zephyrians who started this whole mess are especially unhappy, Kane added. Turns out the Council is using them as shock troops for the planned invasion. They're expected to die first while other species stay safe. Morrison walked to his desk and activated the quantum communication system. Instantly, he was connected to Alliance leaders throughout the galaxy. Admiral Bennett appeared from his flagship. General Sullivan from the Military Command Center. Dozens of alien allies from their home worlds. Friends, Morrison began. The Council has finally decided to deal with us directly. They're coming with everything they have. Worried murmurs filled the channel, but Morrison raised his hand for silence. 2 years ago, they cast us out as dangerous troublemakers. They were right. We are dangerous, to tyrants, to oppression, to anyone who thinks the galaxy belongs to them alone. Let them come. We'll show them what humans can build when they're fighting for freedom. Admiral Bennett spoke first. The fleet is ready, Coordinator. We have ships the Council has never seen and weapons they can't imagine. More importantly, added Ellen, we have something the Council lost long ago. We have hope. Their subjects see us as liberators, not conquerors. When the shooting starts, half their empire will join our side. Morrison looked around the room at the faces of humans and aliens working together, building something better than what the galaxy had before. Then let's give them what they want, he said. They called us too dangerous for civilized space. Time to prove them right. Part 4, The War Begins. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council lasted 3 days. In the Great Hall where Jake Morrison had once stood trial, alien leaders argued and shouted while their translators worked overtime. The holographic displays showed maps that made their worst fears real. Council Security Chief Zeriek of the Predator caste stood before the assembly, his reptilian face grim. His reconnaissance mission to the Outer Rim had returned with news that shook the foundation of galactic civilization. The humans have not simply survived, Zeriek reported. They have built an empire. Over 200 systems now fly their flags. Their cities are larger than our capitals. Their fleets are more advanced than anything we possess. Speaker Velter floated down from the highest platform, his misty form crackling with nervous energy. Impossible. We drove them to empty space with nothing but refugee ships. See for yourself, Zeriek said, activating the recorded data from his spy mission. The hall fell silent as images filled the air. Massive space stations orbited alien worlds. Ships that looked like nothing in Council databases moved through space at impossible speeds. Cities stretched across entire continents, connected by transport systems that defied known physics. "How many ships do they have?" asked Crix the Hive Queen. "Conservative estimates place their fleet at over 10,000 vessels," Zariak answered. "But these are not ordinary ships. They can appear anywhere in a system instantly. Their weapons ignore our shields. Their hulls are made from materials we cannot identify." A crystal chime rang out from the architects section. Their speaker, a being of living diamond, projected thoughts directly into the minds of all present. "Most disturbing is not their technology, but their allies. Species we have controlled for millennia have joined their alliance. The Wanderers bring knowledge from other galaxies. The Iron Bloods provide military expertise. Even some of our own member species are defecting." Council leader Morin of the ancient hierarchy slammed his staff against the floor. "Then we crush them before they grow stronger. Gather every ship, every soldier. We end this human plague before it spreads further." "Already done," Zariak replied. "The Grand Fleet is assembling at Nexus Station. 12,000 ships from all member species. It will be the largest military force in galactic history." What the Council did not know was that their every word was being recorded deep in the station's computer systems. Human intelligence operatives had planted listening devices months earlier. Within hours, transcripts of the emergency session were in the hands of Alliance commanders. At the same time, on the border world of Kepler-7, the first shots of the war were fired. A Council enforcement fleet had arrived to punish the planet for requesting Alliance membership. The local governor, a corrupt official named Velour, had invited them to make an example of the rebels. Admiral Roy Bennett received the distress call as his patrol fleet was passing through nearby space. The message was simple: Council forces attacking civilian targets. Request immediate assistance. Bennett's response was equally simple: on our way. The Battle of Kepler-7 lasted exactly 17 minutes. Council records would later try to explain how an entire enforcement fleet of 200 ships could be destroyed so quickly, but their explanations always fell short of the truth. The human ships appeared without warning, materializing from quantum-fold drives that made them invisible until they chose to fight. The Council fleet found themselves surrounded by vessels that moved like living things, dodging weapons fire that should have been impossible to avoid. The human ships did not rely on massive firepower. Instead, they used precision. Gravity manipulators disabled Council engines. Quantum disruptors shut down their weapons. Electronic warfare systems turned Council computers against their own ships. When the shooting stopped, the space around Kepler-7 was filled with drifting Council vessels, their crews alive but their ships completely powerless. Bennett opened a communication channel to the entire area. "This is Admiral Bennett of the Outer Rim Alliance. Council forces, you have violated the sovereignty of a world that requested our protection. Your ships are disabled, but your crews are unharmed. You have two choices: surrender and join the Alliance, or be escorted back to Council space with a message for your leaders." 2/3 of the Council fleet surrendered on the spot. Their commanders had seen enough of Council corruption and were ready for something better. The remaining ships were allowed to leave, but not before receiving full recordings of the battle to take back to their superiors. News of the defeat spread through Council space like wildfire. For the first time in thousands of years, the mighty Galactic Council had been defeated in open battle. Worse, they had been defeated easily, almost casually, by humans who treated war like a minor inconvenience. On Haven, Coordinator Morrison read the battle reports with satisfaction. The war had begun, but not the way the Council expected. Instead of a massive invasion, the humans were fighting a campaign of liberation. "How are our operatives doing in Council space?" Morrison asked Dr. Kane during their daily briefing. "Better than expected," Kane replied. 3 more species have declared independence from the Council. The Coral Builders, Song Makers, and Star Dancers have all asked for alliance membership. Their fleets are already moving to join our forces. General Sullivan entered the room with her own update. The Council's Grand Fleet is nearly assembled at Nexus Station. 12,000 ships, just like our intelligence predicted. But they have a problem. What kind of problem? Morrison asked. Morale, Sullivan said with a grin. Half their crews don't want to fight. They've heard about alliance worlds where species govern themselves, where trade is free, where innovation is encouraged instead of forbidden. Many of them are asking why they should die to preserve a system that oppresses them. Morrison walked to his window, looking out at the ships in Haven's orbit. Human vessels worked alongside alien allies, sharing technology and resources freely. It was everything the Council claimed to be, but never was. The Council made this war inevitable, he said. They could have let us go in peace. They could have reformed their system to be more fair. Instead, they chose to fight. Now they'll learn what happens when you corner humans who have nothing left to lose. Ellen Price joined the meeting, carrying reports from across the galaxy. Coordinator, we're receiving messages from over 50 Council worlds requesting alliance protection. The Grand Fleet hasn't even left port, and their empire is already falling apart. Morrison smiled. The Council had wanted to crush the human threat before it could spread. Instead, they had started a galactic revolution that would change everything. Send messages to all Alliance members, Morrison ordered. The Council wants a war. Let's give them one they'll never forget. Part 5, The Turning Point. The Grand Fleet of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 star systems as it prepared for the final assault on human space. 12,000 ships of every size and type had gathered for what their commanders promised would be the last battle of the war. Council leaders watched from their safe bunkers, confident that sheer numbers would overcome human technology. Admiral Roy Bennett stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the enemy fleet approach the edge of Alliance space. His own forces seemed tiny in comparison, only 3,000 ships spread across 100 different positions. But Bennett was not worried. The Council was about to learn the difference between quantity and quality. All ships, this is Admiral Bennett, he broadcast to the Alliance fleet. The Council has brought everything they have to our doorstep. They think numbers will save them. Let's show them how wrong they are. The Battle of the Threshold began not with a charge or bombardment, but with something the Council had never experienced. As their Grand Fleet crossed into the outer rim, space itself seemed to come alive around them. Human ships appeared everywhere at once, materializing from quantum fold drives in perfect coordination. The Council fleet found themselves surrounded by vessels that moved like schools of fish, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. Their formation, planned for months by the galaxy's best military minds, collapsed in minutes. Impossible, breathed Council Fleet Commander Zextel as he watched his tactical displays. They have 3,000 ships. We have 12,000. How are we surrounded? His question was answered when the human weapons opened fire. Gravity bombs pulled Council ships out of formation. Quantum disruptors shut down entire squadrons at once. Electronic warfare viruses turned Council computers against their own fleets, causing weapons to target friendly ships and engines to shut down randomly. But the most devastating weapon was not technology. It was information. As the battle raged, Admiral Bennett opened communication channels to every Council ship. His message was broadcast on all frequencies, translated into every known language. Council forces, this is Admiral Bennett of the Free Alliance. Your leaders have lied to you. They told you we are monsters who must be destroyed. Look around you. We could have destroyed your ships in the first 5 minutes of this battle. Instead, we are offering you a choice. On his flagship, Commander Zextel watched his fleet being systematically disabled rather than destroyed. Human ships were targeting engines and weapons, leaving life support and communications intact. They were not trying to kill Council forces. They were trying to save them. Your council leaders sit in their safe bunkers while you die for their power, Bennett continued. We offer you something better. Freedom to govern yourselves. Freedom to trade with anyone you choose. Freedom to explore and grow without permission from distant bureaucrats. The first defection came from the Zepyrian Squadron, the same species whose raid on human colonists had started the whole conflict. Their commander, General Cave Rex, broadcast his surrender on open channels. Zepyrian fleet switching sides, he announced. We're tired of being used as cannon fodder by species who despise us. The humans treat their enemies better than the Council treats its allies. Like a dam breaking, defection spread through the Council fleet. Ship after ship abandoned the fight, their crews having seen enough of Council corruption and human honor. Some joined the alliance immediately. Others simply stopped fighting and waited to see what the new galaxy would look like. Within 6 hours, 2/3 of the Council's Grand Fleet had surrendered or switched sides. The remaining ships, mostly those with fanatic loyalty to the old system, found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. Commander Zextal gave the order to retreat, but even this was turned into a demonstration of human superiority. The fleeing Council ships were not pursued or harassed. Instead, human vessels escorted them safely to the border, providing supplies and medical aid to damaged ships. It was a final insult to Council pride, their enemy showing them mercy they had never shown others. On Haven, Coordinator Morrison received reports of victory with quiet satisfaction. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. The galaxy's political structure had collapsed in a single day, leaving billions of beings wondering what would come next. The Council leadership is requesting a meeting, reported Ambassador Ellen Price. They want to discuss terms for surrender. No surrender, Morrison replied. The Council is finished. We're not conquering their empire. We're helping their people build something better. Over the following months, the transformation of galactic civilization moved faster than anyone had imagined possible. The rigid Council system, held together by fear and tradition, crumbled as soon as beings realized they had alternatives. Species that had been enemies for centuries began working together. The Coral Builders shared their architectural knowledge with human engineers. The Song Makers taught Alliance children how music could heal wounded minds. The Star Dancers showed human pilots how to navigate by instinct rather than instruments. Dr. Lisa Kane established the Galactic Science Council, where researchers from every species could share knowledge freely. General Kate Sullivan created the Alliance Defense Force, where beings fought together to protect freedom rather than conquest. Ambassador Price built diplomatic networks that reached every corner of the galaxy. The old Council worlds became museums and memorials to what the galaxy had been. The real centers of civilization moved to the dynamic worlds of the Alliance, where innovation flourished and different species learned from each other. Part 6, The Conclusion. 5 years after his trial and banishment, Jake Morrison stood once again in a great hall filled with alien beings. But this hall was different. Instead of floating in separate sections, species sat together. Instead of formal protocols, beings spoke freely. Instead of fear and suspicion, the air was filled with hope and cooperation. Friends, Morrison said to the assembled delegates. 5 years ago, the old Council called humans too dangerous for civilized space. They were right. We were dangerous. To tyranny. To oppression. To the idea that things must never change. He looked around the hall at faces from dozens of worlds, beings who had once been enemies now working together to build something unprecedented. Today we celebrate not the end of the old galaxy, but the birth of a new one. A galaxy where species choose their own destinies. Where innovation is celebrated, not feared. Where beings work together because they want to, not because they're forced to. Morrison walked to the great window overlooking Haven Spaceport, where ships from across the galaxy arrived daily with settlers, traders, students, and dreamers. The Council feared we would change their perfect order. They were right about that, too. We changed everything, and we're just getting started. Outside, the stars shone on a galaxy transformed, where the human gift for growth and change had created opportunities for everyone. The beings who had once called humans too dangerous for civilization now sent their children to human schools to learn the most dangerous lesson of all, that things could always be better than they were.